Are you a healer, witch, creative, or magical entrepreneur who's ready to fill your high-ticket one-on-one or group coaching program, and you want a sales page that will do the selling for you? Maybe you're tired of having a calendar full of sales calls and you want a sales page that can clearly articulate your offer and guide interested clients to feel ready to buy without needing to talk to you first. Maybe you already have a sales page and people are clicking on it but not reaching out, and you want to feel clear on what to say and what not to say to turn interested people into actual buyers. Having sales pages for my offers has led to filling a high-ticket group coaching program with 10 clients at $1,000 each while traveling on vacation for 2 weeks and launching using repurposed content. Having 5-figure months from sales into my $5,000 evergreen mastermind with no live launching beyond daily social media content. Signing clients into my $17,000 private mentorship program with no sales calls. When you book my Cosmic Sales Intensive, you'll walk away with a full, clear, compelling sales page for your high-ticket offer that will attract ready-to-buy clients and that you can continue to make sales with for years to come. Clients who have been through this offer have created a sales page that went on to sell out a high-ticket relationship coaching mastermind, had 20 applications within 48 hours of publishing, sold several $15,000 private mentorship packages, and even had a 6-figure launch with the sales page and content strategy we created within just a few weeks. Stop losing people with fluffy language that sounds the same as so many others in your industry, and clearly articulate why your work is worth $5,000 to $10,000 plus, even when you sell things like astrology, human design, breathwork, mindset coaching, or energy work. Book your Cosmic Sales Intensive now at withsarahmac.com or via the link in my description. This is Sarah Mac, and welcome to Creative Magic Club. Together, we'll discover inspirational stories of creative entrepreneurs living out their dreams, doing the work they are most passionate about, and building wealth in magical and fun ways. While building a 6-figure income as a writer and coach, helping other women to launch their dream businesses, I've connected with so many incredible people and seen it proven again and again that you can thrive financially doing whatever it is you are passionate about. I'm here to share life-changing strategies for mindset, making money, and reaching more people with your work in a business and life filled with creativity, freedom, and fun. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Creative Magic Club podcast. I'm so excited to introduce my guest today. We have with us Kimberly LaForte, who is a voice guide, visibility coach, and motivational speaker, helping women step into sacred self-expression and unshakable presence. With over 20 years of experience in psychology, neuroscience, and Eastern philosophy, she blends somatics, vocal energetics, and strategic coaching to help speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs hold the power of their message. Her signature approach, fusing science and spirit, transforms how women show up on stage, in business, and in life. Kimberly is also the creator of Vocal Honey, a methodology and movement for unmuted leadership. Hi, Kimberly. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Sarah. Thank you for having me here.
So, yeah, there's obviously a lot of crossover in our work in helping women to share their message, to be seen, to have an impact, tell their stories, shape the culture, change the world through their amazing, powerful, magical work. And I'm so excited to dive in to hear your unique perspective. But before we get into the juicy details, tell us, how did you end up here? What brought you to this work?
A really bad marriage a while ago. I was in a 9-year unaligned marriage with a very intellectual partner. Nothing wrong with intellectualism at all. In fact, he encouraged me to go back and get my graduate degree, which is fantastic. However, whenever I would bring in my special sauce of energy and feeling and somatic work, I was looked at kind of like a weirdo, yeah, but tell us about the data. I, at the time, Sarah, was running an award-winning yoga studio. And so during the day, I would be all up in that energetic side. And then I'd come home and I'd have to bury that part of me. And that cut my power in half. So much so where I actually became medicated on beta blockers just for fear of speaking because I was always worried I was going to mess it up. I was like, well, a part of me has to be buried in this box now. I can't fully be expressed. And I wonder if you can relate. I know a lot of women can relate to having to be one person over here and one person over there. But what happened to me was that I couldn't really find me anywhere. And my voice was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And just going out to have coffee with a friend was becoming like a threat. And I'm like, what is going on? Why am I popping pills to go have dinner with friends? Everything suddenly felt high stakes because I had to be perfect. So I got off the pills. I figured out how to pull into my neuroscience and yoga background and cognitive psychology, human behavior, and said, let me just figure it out. There's got to be something here. And it turns out that I didn't need more knowledge. I didn't need more skill. I needed to embody my voice and stay present while I spoke. And that's what allowed me to get off the pills. And now I speak all the time on stages. I am the founder of Vocal Honey. I'm obsessed, Sarah, with helping women unmute and use their voice in any sacred space.
That's so amazing. And I was peeking at your chart before we jumped on this conversation, and you have a very common placement for healers, which is Chiron in Taurus. And I talk about Chiron a lot because that's like our wound. That's like our deepest wound. And Chiron in Taurus is the wound of loss. So it's usually, something has happened to us to make us fear losing something, whether that's emotional safety, which it sounded like it was for you, or it could be physical safety, financial safety, or like a blend of all of those things. And then yours is in the third house, which is all about communication. So you're just like, yeah, this is the perfect example of how somebody takes her pain and something that she's been through and turns it into her gold to impact others. And obviously, it's like, I always talk about this because it's the hard-won lessons that make us such a valuable resource, right? It's like you want to work with someone who gets it, who's like been in the trenches, who's had it like the worst of the worst, because then you can really help other people to get out of that too. And it's such a beautiful story. And I know you talk about that a lot on your podcast, and I was curious about your relationship and like, what was it about that, And I think obviously our relationships are just like a microcosm for things that we're also experiencing culturally, like every single day as women, like every conversation we have, every system we interact with, every, organization. So, okay, so let me get this straight. It was really, because that's wild that you were so living such an embodied, energetic practice through your yoga work and then having that conflict in the home. And I know, nervous system is such a huge part of the conversation for you. Like, where did you kind of wake up to that realization that that was what you needed to focus on? And how did that lead to that shift back to really like reclaiming your voice?
It wasn't right away for sure. I know that it was more on the action side of things. So before I landed here in being a voice guide and before Vocal Honey was a thing, I was an empowerment coach. And so I became really focused there on teaching women how to feel something and then go for it. So what's the process of going for things? That allowed me, because I'm, good at being a student of my own work. So I'm like, well, let me just go ahead and make more YouTube videos. Let me make some podcasts. At one point I had 2 podcasts. Like, I was like, let me just go all in on using my voice and taking action to practice visibility. And that led me to some really great opportunities to get on stage and fill in for a lot of keynote speakers. So that's how I got started, really, was all of a sudden people just wanted to hear me talk about my life and the inspiration I could give people. But I was doing it by filling in for keynotes that were sick. People would flake. Someone just had a bad relationship, like a business partnership, and they need someone to co-host next weekend's events. It was a weird, cataclysmic time 2 or 3 years ago, but I kept saying yes. And each one of those opportunities gave me so much momentum. So when I looked back on my career now, I thought, okay, there was something I was doing to allow me to take consistent action as a beginner while I was still taking beta blockers. And what it was my home practice of visualizing. I started getting deep into manifesting, deep into the projection and mental rehearsal of who I wanted to be. And I had no clue how powerful this really was. So, what I was doing and I was unaware of was training my nervous system ahead of the experience to be a great communicator. And in practicality, I was taking a lot of action. So, I think it was both of those, Sarah, that rehearsal and getting the neurology, like wiring and firing to become that future person, and just going for it messy.
I love that. And it just goes to show how you can have such a strong expression of a skill set in like one arena of your life. And then the other arena can be just like a real challenge, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to communication and relationship um,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah. And I love that, it was the intentionality and the tools, the toolkit that you chose to use to be able to express your voice in that specific arena that, yeah, maybe you like hadn't tapped into that in the areas where it was feeling hard for you to share your voice and to be
Yeah,
seen.
absolutely. And I think a lot of women shy away from, like, we think we need the expertise. We need someone on the outside of us to come and say, you're really good at speaking about this or that. But really, it is looking at, well, what could I speak about all the time that no, you just couldn't shut me up about? And what makes me feel expanded in my body when I speak about it, even though my heart might be racing and I still might have sweaty palms. I might feel like a nervous wreck inside, yet I still love talking about this one topic. That's the one you should be practicing on now, because there is going to be a moment, Sarah. Anyone listening, your big moment of visibility is like next weekend, girl. Like, it's coming so soon. And most people think they have to be ready, and you don't. You need to be resolved. That's what we say inside of Vocal Honey. You don't need to be ready, but you got to be resolved. And what that looks like is a power within in you instead of a power over of someone coming and saying, hey, you look like a keynote, get on my stage. Or, hey, do you want to come and be on my podcast? Resolve energy says, oh, I'll start my own podcast. I'm going to start my own YouTube channel. I'm the stage, right? Like, we are the stage inside of our body. The tongue is the microphone. Like, we are a living, breathing stage. So when you think of it like that, we're speaking all the time. But now the awareness is, oh my goodness, I'm actually training my nervous system to be more visible soon in a bigger room. And that helps when that big room actually shows up.
Yeah, I love this conversation. Can you kind of bring to our awareness some of the main ways that you see women either like holding themselves back or like resisting or like just not making the moves that are really going to get them to where they want to go because of like a misconception or thinking it needs to be a certain way? Like, let's hear some of the common things that you see in clients.
Common things I see are, someone's going to judge me. As soon as I go to open up my mouth, someone is going to say, that girl is stupid. What's she talking about? And even though they are the expert, or someone's going to be like, you, who are you? Where are your credentials? A lot of women I work with are so worried about having to prove that someone's just going to come up and tap them on the shoulder and say, show me your degree, show me, prove it. So proving it, criticism of not being good enough, how someone looks. I hear that from women a lot too. So now all of a sudden, Kimberly, you're saying, I got to be on camera. Well, yeah, you've got a business, you got a brand. It's kind of the tax of the success is visibility. So yeah, camera's great. Let's do it. But now we're worried about that we aged a little bit. We've gained some weight. We're worried about, is our hair the right way? Is our outfits good enough? So there's a lot of self-criticism that comes up. And I understand because I have been there. We are our worst critic. But most of the time, when we go live and we speak and we use our voices, 99% of the people are going to be cheering for us. And a small percentage are just going to swipe away because they don't care. And then like 0.001 are actually going to say the things that you're afraid of. I always then think though, if I'm actually getting criticism, it's because I'm saying something relevant. So isn't it good either way? Like you're good either way. You're good if you get the troll and you get that unpleasant woman who's just tearing you down. You're saying something relevant. So you might as well speak anyway. But how we go forward, even though we're having those negative thoughts, is by getting out of the head and actually anchoring into the body.
Yeah, I love this conversation. And I also love what you said earlier about like having realistic expectations, you know? And I think like when I reflect on myself, there's definitely, like there's definitely a lot of ease that I've experienced and that I've created where, you know, I have normalized by doing something repetitively and I have grown a lot more comfortable with like sharing my story and talking publicly and making video and publishing podcasts and being on social media and blah, blah, blah. And there's also things that are just unavoidable. Like when I'm on a stage, which I don't do very often because I have a lot of 12th house placements. So I love to be behind a screen in my home and not having to wear pants. But like, you know, having shaky hands or being really nervous or anxious, like that's just a part of it, you know, and that might never go away for some people. And I also haven't experienced a ton of trolling. I don't have a huge audience, but like some of my worst fears have come to fruition in terms of like people in my life rejecting me and like not loving what I'm saying and me having to have courage to take a stand for my message and that causing legitimate friction, you know, in my personal life. That has been very painful, cost a lot of money and time in therapy and like, you know, so yeah, some things might never happen. And some things are kind of inevitable, you know, and I have had like a couple of instances online where there's been like a nasty experience, usually obviously from a man. But so like how do you help your clients to just kind of like navigate that, like you said, like this is part and parcel of it. So like, yeah, you might have to deal with some of these things that you don't want to have to deal with. How do you help to normalize that, especially from a nervous system perspective?
Yeah, it's the tax of success. One of them is visibility. Another one is tension. And tension is a huge thing we talk about inside of Vocal Honey. The phrase we always use is tension is teaching. Tension is teaching us where to go in order to grow. And the perspective always is wherever you're feeling resistance, it actually is happening to you because it's meant for you. Because think about it this way. If you don't care about someone's reaction or a situation, you know, it's almost like it's not meant for you. Like if you go to a movie, for example, and you and I, Sarah, we're sitting there and we're watching this documentary, and I am getting so freaked out and I'm so nervous and I'm so excited. I'm like, what's happening? This person, this adventure, it's so cool. And you're going, yeah, maybe no, this is not for me. What that's telling us is that our experiences are valid, but that movie was marketed to me. Like the marketers did a good job at arousing my nervous system. And another movie, same thing might happen to you, but that movie is marketed toward your buyer persona, right? Your personality. I think of it in the same way now with discomfort. It's happening because it's meant for me. And if I can be brave enough and humble enough to recognize the teaching moment as a gift, I can soften my shoulders. We can relax our breathing. We can say, okay, I may not like this, but I bet you there's a lesson here for me. So at that point, just acknowledging that tension is a teacher is enough for us to start to encounter it more willingly. And the nervous system then shifts slightly out of that fight or flight where we're pushing and resisting into a more relaxed state. That also changes your brain chemistry as well. It gets us from that high, really intense alpha state where we're like, holy shit, the bear's coming, I might need to run, to a nice, more closer to like a theta and a beta brainwave. Those are the brainwaves that help us to really communicate better and feel love and empathy. Even though we don't like the physical experience, even though we don't like the shots being called at us online or the challenging discussions we need to have at home, Sarah, right? Like using our voice every day is tough. But now, if we can start to just reframe that tension is actually for me, we will lean in, use our voice, be more present. And on the other side of that is always a lesson, and we grow as a result.
Yeah, I love that so much. So what are some of your like top tips and hacks for kind of like easing into tension when you have this awareness of like, oh, I'm resisting this, I'm avoiding this, or I'm like running really hard in the opposite direction when I know I really want to be going this way? Like, what do you suggest?
The main tip that I teach inside of Vocal Honey is something called the vocal positioning system. So I'll go ahead and share it with you guys right now. So this is something you can start practicing it before you go live, before you're interviewed on your podcast, before you have that really tough discussion with your significant other at the dining room table. Whenever stakes feel high is when we're going to abandon our body and run to our head to try to mitigate the amount of sensation we're feeling. Because we don't want the tension. We don't want the icky feelings of sweat and heart rate and fear. So we'll go to our head. And the problem there is that the head really doesn't have the heart, does it? So we end up sounding really dry. We end up maybe not saying the things we really wanted to say. So it's really important that even while you're feeling all the tension of visibility, that you stay anchored into your body. And that sounds crazy if you're following, right? Like it's like, wait, the tension, I want to escape it. But I'm saying, no, you got to stay in your body because we like people who are motivated. We like people who have passion in their voices. We want to feel what you're saying. So a skill to work with your tension is to use what I call the vocal positioning system, or the VPS for short. So we've all heard of the GPS, and that's how you like get your car from point A to point B. Well, we do that with our voice with the VPS. The vocal positioning system is a way for you to map your voice out of your head back down to very specific locations in your body. And this is all based on yoga, awareness, and mindfulness. So you start with asking 2 different questions, and then we talk to the body. So if you are in the somatic world, this is going to make a whole bunch of sense. And I know your listeners are going to love this. So you asked a question. First thing is, how do you want to feel when you speak? And you answer that with one word. And then you say, hey, body, show me where that lives. And you put a hand there. So let's say, well, Sarah, we'll have you do it. Like right now, like how do you want to feel when you speak on this podcast?
I want to feel calm.
Okay. And then ask your body, show me where calm lives. And if you get like a little sense of where that is physically, and just wherever that comes up for you first, put a hand there.
Okay. It's like my solar plexus.
Okay. Great. And then the second question, how do you want others to feel as they encounter your voice?
I want others to feel engaged.
Okay, great. Now ask body, maybe with the eyes closed, maybe taking some deep breaths. Show me where the energy of engaged, where's the energetic signature of engaged live, and put a hand there.
That came up as my throat.
Yeah, good. And sometimes it's weird, like the head, people have had the back of their neck, a shoulder. And the point is the body's never wrong. We want to connect with it. We want to celebrate it. We want to say, okay. So we hold there. Now, this is where it gets a little trippy and kind of psychedelic. I want you to imagine that you have 3 mouths now. You got your first mouth, which we know about. Now I want you to imagine you have 2 other mouths right where those hands are. And we breathe in and we breathe out, generating a connection to these hand pressed points, and imagining now that you're sourcing your words from these 3 mouths. So now it's not just the one that's connected to the head, it's filled with logic. This is also connected to sourcing our voice from the mouth, the source of our body. And you stay here for a few minutes and you imagine and you see yourself now speaking. Just imagine seeing yourself speaking and sourcing the words. So I tell my students to like give it a color. Like if you imagine there's a smoke, right? Or a beautiful flowing color of energy that's flowing up from those two hands that's convening at the throat. And then can you see it coming out of your mouth then? So that's just one tip. How do you feel, Sarah?
Yeah, that was really cool. It's like when you said visualize the three mouths and speaking from the three mouths, I just felt really connected to my body, and like my message would just have that extra resonance of being embodied.
Yes, amazing. Yes, exactly. And that's something we can do for the short term. So VPS is for like immediate, like I'm about to go live in a couple minutes. I'm backstage, I'm about to get on stage. For the long term, the long term is about what you're doing when no one's around. The long term practice for stabilizing your nervous system is what you're doing with your nervous system while you're not being visible. Because most people think that they have to wait for the moment of visibility, but when they do, they have no capacity for the amount of eyes and ears that are on them. And so they collapse inward. And that's the worst thing, Sarah, because women will get off stage and they'll think, oh my God, that was terrible. What did I even say? And I looked at that woman's face and that his face, and they looked like they hated me. And now we internalize it. And now we're like, not for me. And we wash our hands of it. And we're like, visibility isn't for me, but it is. I think it's your birthright. Visibility is your birthright. It's just we've been conditioned along the way that it's not safe to speak. And so that's why stepping on a stage, standing up for what you want, speaking on it feels like such a threat because we've been conditioned to not say it. So the mental rehearsal is huge here. And what I guide people through is what I call honey wired, right? Vocal honey is where soul meets sound and impact is delicious and inevitable, right? Your voice is just ooey and gooey and sticky and sweet. We can make our brain honey wired. And so we rehearse the big stage coming up. We rehearse you on a book tour, every single room sold out, right? And conversations and interview styles we rehearse the podcast, and you hold the energy until your actual full being feels like it's already experienced it. Every client that I go through Honeywired with, within 2 to 3 weeks, it doesn't take long, of two times a week. If you want to really go for it every single day, you want to be rehearsing and feeling the energy or emotions of that future state. They immediately start to speak differently. Women will be like, I just went live. I didn't hesitate anymore. So that nervous system just needs a baseline practice that you do every day while no one is looking.
Okay, thank you for sharing this awesome technique with
Yeah.
us. And what this conversation is really bringing up for me, and you said it, I think the key word here is like rehearsal, because, and I know there's like a very high percentage of people who end up in the coaching world who have some type of background in a body-based practice or performance. You know, like my background is drama and film. Your background is yoga. Like I had a very well-established yoga practice coming into entrepreneurship. But I also just had completed my master's degree before I had my burnout, and then came into, you know, building an online brand. And my master's had really conditioned me to be in my head, to be like very like overthinking. I mean, a master's degree in philosophy and film is literally a degree in overthinking. It's like, how many deep layers can I overthink this to? How many words can I fit into this sentence? Which is literally like the opposite of the clarity and authenticity required in communication to just connect human to human and make an impact quickly online. So I think it's so valuable to just reflect on that for ourselves, particularly coming into entrepreneurship. Because this is something that people don't talk about a lot, is the backgrounds that people bring and the skill sets that people bring. And I think when you have a background in performance, you're kind of familiar with this concept of rehearsal, right? And like, you know, I would write scripts for things. I never had to hugely do that in my business, but I have done that practice of rehearsal for stage performances where I've had to say the same words and the same script over and over and over and over again. Like when I'm performing my own songs that I've written, I've had to practice them multiple times and like record myself and listen back to get it to a place where I'm like, okay, this is finally, I finally built the capacity to express the thing in the way that I want to express it. And sometimes that takes a lot of freaking rehearsal to just like embody what it is that you're trying to reach people with. So yeah, I think a lot of people, like if it is a newer skill set for you or speaking in a particular modality or medium, like cut yourself some slack and know that sometimes repetition and rehearsal is literally the only way you're going to get to the level that you want to get to. And yeah, we have, even though we're, you know, it can feel very digital and disembodied. Like, you know, we publish our words on social media. We're like a little talking head. We're just like a photo and a profile bubble, but people can feel that resonance and they can feel the embodiment of your work and your message. And it's so important to do this work and to know, number one, like what is most accessible to you at this point in your entrepreneurial journey. And also like, what do you really want, you know, and like dedicate yourself to putting in the work to being able to reach people in the mediums, modalities and ways that you really envision yourself doing that.
Thank you for bringing up the word work, because I think that just because we have a business that we love, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to love us back. And sometimes it's just we signed up for hard work. And I've worked in the last 6 months, really recently, at befriending hard work again in my business, because I was getting a little bit bitter of I've been in it for this long, I should feel easier. And then I thought about the whole thing with tension is teaching. I'm like, well, maybe this isn't the way it has to be. Maybe things can still be hard. And what if I just fell in love with things have to take time? Things need to build. You know, Lucas Mack, he's someone that I really like. He is of Awaken Breathwork. Him and his wife, they do a lot of work out. I think they're based in Australia, but they're here in the US a lot and in LA, I think. Maybe you've seen, I mean, I don't know. You're in LA. Yeah.
No,
But
I haven't. I'll check
he
them
was
out.
just talking about, you know, when we go to the gym, we would never expect that we would lift up the weight one time and boom, our bicep would be like 3 inches bigger, right? We would never expect that one squat on the squat rack and boom, we would have beautiful, gorgeous legs like Tina Turner. It's the same thing with the inner nervous system work. We have to put in the reps. We have to have the nutritional hygiene. We have to be thinking about the spiritual hygiene, the astrological hygiene. Like it takes time, but that's where disappearing from the world, the tension of not being visible. Ooh, Sarah, there's a whole other episode there we could go into. But the tension of getting off of a stage and the lull of not being visible, because we get so addicted to the see me, hear me, hear me. And then when there's silence, can we be with ourselves again to get back to center? Because that's really like putting reps in the gym before the bodybuilding show. And it's important just to know that that's the tax. But at some point, you'll break through and all of a sudden visibility will feel easier. And you'll go, oh, I got done with that. And I just said it perfectly. It felt really good. And I know I connected with someone because I stayed real with myself. I stayed in my body.
Yeah, so good. And I think that message can really be applied to social media, especially. I think a lot of us feel frustrated by social media and can, you know, and I've definitely experienced that in my business too, where it's like you reach a certain level and you're like, oh, I know how to do this. And then you get a little complacent and then you get like entitled. And it's like, well, I should be able to have these results because I've done all this work up until now. It's like, no, like everything is a practice. Like everything is a practice. Your soul work is a practice. Serving is a practice. All of the skill sets it requires to consistently do that and consistently maintain a level of excellence, you know, it's a practice. And it's like, what is a practice? It's something that when you stop doing it, the benefits go away, like going to the gym, like eating healthily. And so, yeah, and I think that's why it's so important that we choose practices that we want to be devoted to, you know? And that,
Emotional energy. Yeah, I'm just
yeah.
thinking of my friend Miranda. She's out in Colorado. Actually, she just messaged me saying that she felt like she was out of practice even with everyday conversation. She's a teacher for younger kids. So she recently went out with adult friends. She hasn't been around in a while, and she found herself kind of tripping over her words. And so again, I said, hey, Miranda, you're just not practiced. And so we can be practicing for the big moments, guys, but like it's also very important to practice being present and in your body with the relationships that are happening around you, with strangers and that's what I call the everyday stage. That's a really great place to practice being seen and heard too. When I was springing back from my divorce, getting off pills, I was just waving at people. I go like, "Hey, how you doing?" And just started to like lift my head up to address people. And I was really scared of that. Like that's how much I got in my head. Like no one wants to hear from me. I just got divorced. I'm abandoned. Like who wants me? But what happened is people started saying hi back. And I started to ask questions. They asked me questions back. And then it became very apparent to me that, I'm not broken. And it just takes practice, even on the small everyday level.
Yeah, that's such a powerful lesson. It's like whatever you want to receive, like give it first.
Yes.
And just be willing to keep giving it until it's reciprocated. And
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes the gap, it can feel really uncomfortable. Like, oh, I didn't get it back immediately. Damn. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again,
Yeah. And
This
then you
has
build
been,
up that resiliency muscle along the way for sure.
yeah, totally. This has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Can you tell everyone who's listening, where can they find you? What have you got going on?
Absolutely. And thank you. This has been tremendous and such a beautiful conversation. I really appreciate you inviting me on and all of your listeners just for your attention, your eyes, and your ears. I appreciate it, guys. So you can find me. The show notes will be some information, but I've got a website, KimberlyLaForte.com. That's where you'll find everything about Vocal Honey. So if you wanted to come do work in person, we're in the second year of the Vocal Honey tour. So we are every single month, we've rented out a really great spot where there's an activity, there's activities. We're going bowling and having brunch in a couple Sundays. We're learning how to build campfires together. It's like a total immersive experience, but then we also practice using our voice while breaking bread and just everyday conversation. It's a lot of fun. So if you are, that's all in the upstate New York area, and all that information's on the website. But I have a really special program coming up. It's going to be launching soon. It's called The Frequency. And this is going to be the 6 months or year-long experience for women to come and finally recalibrate their nervous system to this next level of power that they've already stepped into or they're about to step into with business or leadership. And so it's a deep dive, kind of college-like semesters of dedicating and devotional energy to learning the neuroscience, the spirituality, the mindset, and the practices to really stabilize your nervous system so that we don't people please with our voice and have our voice represent the leader that we really are. So there's a wait list open for that now. And I have free content on YouTube and the podcast.
What's the name of your podcast so people can find it?
It is the Vocal Honey Podcast with Kimberly LaForte.
Amazing. Definitely go check out her podcast. It's really, really great. And thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, for watching. If you know anyone who would love this episode, please share it with them. And thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah.